Hello, I'm Paul Tunnah, and welcome to another episode of my Health Innovators video series. I'm really excited about speaking today with Sergey Young, who you probably heard the name, is a real visionary and innovator in the field of longevity, and of course an investor as well. There's so much exciting stuff going on in this space. He's also a member of the UK All Parliamentary Group on longevity, which is great to hear that heavy involvement in the UK field. And as I say, Sergey, I mean, this whole topic, I think, is just fascinating. I'm not quite sure where to begin, but maybe let's start with your background, your career today, and how did you get into this field?
Wonderful. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. So where do I start? Since early days, my choice of education and career was the choice from needs of my family, because I was just living through the collapse of Soviet Union. So very quickly, in the age of 18, it was me actually, making money to support my whole family rather than my parents helping me as a second-year student. So in a way, God didn't give me the opportunity to have a passion, right? To have a mission in life. And there was but I really enjoyed what I've done. So my degrees wise, the first degree is chemical engineering. The second is economic and finance. The third is business administration and Warwick Business School. I'm a big fan of English education system, and I'm a bit of product of that. In parallel, I've done a lot of investments, and in the last 20 years, I'm an investor, which I really enjoyed. But then 5 or 6 years ago, I saw my doctor, and they said, "Well, Sergey, you have high cholesterol level. You need to take statins till the rest of your life." I was not really ready for that. And this is my whole first personal journey started with health and longevity, and on this way I discovered so many things that is not part of our traditional paradigm about human health, medicine, and healthcare, and ability of our body to heal itself. I mean, not from all disease, right? And then, or that the symptomatic nature of our healthcare. We react to the disease rather than we've been preventive about this. And obviously, what I also discovered that technology and development of technology is just about to make a massive change the way we monitor, manage, and heavily influence our health. So I got excited, and I thought, and I felt so passionate about longevity and bringing more healthy and happy years to people around me. So then I met two visionaries, with Peter Diamandis, founder of Singularity University, and Tony Robbins, guru and coach. And they both told me, like, well, Sergey, I mean, if you're going to change the world, right, don't think about changing 1,000 lives, go for billion. And I thought, oh, okay, if you think about incremental efforts, it's basically the same, right? But it's just a great filter to, whenever I'm doing something, I'm counting my impact in lives changed and the opportunity to impact people. So here and there, I'm trying to make my 1 billion. Well, that's why I joined the UK group in Parliament, trying to influence the national longevity strategy for UK. I'm working with a lot of global corporations on implementing longevity at work environment in their offices. The largest I've done was 300,000 people in 20 plus countries. And a caveat, this whole longevity thing for me is pro bono stuff. Apart from, obvious longevity vision fund as investment business, the rest is just me giving back to the world.
Right.
So I thought, okay, if I'm going to learn the new space, if I finally discovered my passion, well, I should probably set up, rather than reading media and internet, I should probably set up like a small fund to support entrepreneurs who's trying to make a change there. So this is the origin of Longevity Vision Fund. And I was so happy. It's a 100 million fund. We support technologies. We already done 15 investments with one very particular filter. It should bring affordable and accessible version of healthcare and longevity to this world. So I'm not really interested in super expensive treatments
Right.
for guys who can afford pay like $1 million for extending their life. And there's plenty of demand for that. So, but I'm not interested in that. So it should be mass products, mass interventions at very affordable cost, or with clear path to be accessible and affordable for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing door opener. So I got to know 50 probably top healthcare and longevity academics all around the world. We're looking at 200 companies a year to cherry pick 10 or 12 of them for us to invest. And it's not like 30 minutes on the phone. So we go into the labs, we work a lot with entrepreneurs, and it's exciting. So in the course of last 2 years, I got more and more excited about longevity revolution and its ability to change our life, not only quantity wise, but also quality wise, which I think is much more important.
I agree. And you touched on there, your scope and the field of view you have with different companies. This whole space is exploding. I think you described it as $1 trillion opportunity.
Yeah.
So how do you pick out those things that you think are really interesting, potentially scalable? Are there certain areas of technology
Oh,
you could highlight?
yeah, it's a very clever but also very difficult question. So I'll try to respond to that. Well, first of all, there's number of trends which we see in the healthcare and development of technology, which are pretty clear.
Yeah.
And so the investment should be part of this trend that we see is growing. It had a lot of attention and has a lot of potential to change human lives on a mass scale. So one is, for example, early diagnostic of disease like heart disease and cancer. Well, these are the two killer monsters which kills 50% of people in
Yeah.
age above 50. And again, as I always said, when I was young, cancer was kiss of death. Yeah. Right now, it's not the case. So if you discover that you have stage 1, depending on the type of the cancer, your probability to recover is 93 to 100%.
Yeah.
So we put a huge importance to that. And obviously it's not gastroscopy and colonoscopy anymore. You can do a blood test. I'm talking about a company called Freenome, and then they use AI. They have a lot of data on you and other patients, and with probability of 94%, you gotta know if you have anything dangerous inside your body, which would require early treatment. So early diagnostic was a big trend. So
Yeah.
that's one. Number two, because of enormous speed of technological innovations from big data, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, we have an opportunity to democratize completely the medical equipment space. So think about ultrasound device that you have in the hospital next door. I mean, depending on the producer, it's anywhere between $100,000 and $200,000. So that's a lot, right? And you need to have someone very experienced with at least 2 years of very specific education program to interpret ultrasound diagnostic pictures, scans. So we invested in a company called Eco Imaging. They based in Silicon Valley, and what they do, they just produce a very affordable and portable version of ultrasound device. So and the price of it is somewhere around $2,000. So it's 50 times
Right.
less than the analog that you have, like a bulky thing that you have in the hospital next door. And the quality of some of the initial scans that you can do is very comparable to the old style equipment. I do think they will coexist. You always will need to have someone super experienced and doing this in hospital. But think about people in Africa or in particular poor regions. They would just welcome the opportunity. So what is happening? You do a scan, all of this goes to cloud, then it's pre-analyzed by artificial intelligence, and you pretty much know, is there anything which require your and your doctor's attention. So I'm
Yeah.
very excited about this whole thing. So again, second is the ability of technology to democratize the space of medical equipment, and therefore improve access to healthcare at a fraction of cost.
Yeah.
Third is use of artificial intelligence in drug development. So, well, let's look at US example. On average, out of 5,000 drug candidates, like targets for drugs, there's only 1 out of 5,000 which will make it through FDA, which is US regulator, through FDA process. And it's 12 years and it's $2.6 billion on average. I mean, I've seen different figures, but they all, ridiculous enough, from 1.5 billion.
It's been that way for years, hasn't it?
Like for decades, right? But the first 2 or 3 years of drug development is basically searching through the whole library of chemical substances and enormous research databases, looking at the academic trials all around the world. So this can be beautifully done by AI in most of the cases. So that's why we have an opportunity to compile the first 2 or 3 years out of this 12 years horizon into period of weeks or 1 or 2 months. So this is what has been done by a few companies. One is in Silicon Medicine. They're now Hong Kong based, but they work, they have a partnership with big pharma all around the world. Or Vala Health, which has been established by David Berry, a partner of Flagship Pioneering, one of the brightest and one of the most successful biotech funds from Boston. They also use AI to completely redesign the process of drug development, to design new drugs, and so that's been super helpful. What else?
Just on that point. So just on that point, Sergey, I'm really intrigued. I mean, how quick do you think we can get that drug development process? Because there's a degree of obviously safety monitoring and rigor that has to go in, but how short can we get that potentially?
Yeah. So what we're discussing today in the context of Longevity Vision Fund, I call it Horizon 2 of longevity. So Horizon 1 is what you can do today, and it's early diagnostic plus lifestyle changes. People think it's boring, but at least we can do it today. So then Horizon 2, this is technologies that we're investing in, and my time frame for us to be able to use it is anywhere between 5 and 20 years. So some of the things will be available in 5 years. Obviously, I think, and it's often the case in healthcare, the biggest bottleneck for the technology to be adopted is actually regulation and position of regulators, specifically in US, rather than the ability of technology to deliver. And in this context, I think if you want to think about the positive side effects of COVID, and it's obviously a lot of negative effects. This is a terrible story, but I think we see that regulators all around the world learn to speed up the regulatory approval process. But also in traditional healthcare is a very classical risk averse, for the good reason, type of system. So I've just learned that in US, from the date of approval of particular intervention or the medical equipment to the mass use of it, there's a period of 17 years. So that's your adoption period interval for that. Nevertheless, things are changing. But I do believe that, and I know already there's a number of drugs which is currently in early development stage, which is used in AI. And this is before we're going into big pharma. I'm pretty sure every big pharma today has hundreds, if not thousands, of AI engineers who's actually integrating the AI, cloud computing, big data into the process of drug development. So I think it's already happening, but obviously because of the long development cycle, we're going to see it in the next 5 to 10 years.
It's a really interesting time, because I think, as you say, medicines will continue to be very important, but medicines are often used to treat a condition, whereas if you can prevent something, and that's where I see the field of digital health is getting really interesting. You've got a lot of very smart tech entrepreneurs who are becoming aware of their own mortality, investing and getting interested in this space. So how do you see that developing now? How do you see the world of digital health and pharmaceuticals coming together, particularly around this topic?
Well, think about 10 or 20 years ago. I mean, if you would have the same mission like we have, right? You have a choice either to go to and make academic career, which means you're spending many years in the lab doing trials and writing papers. So that's your currency. I mean, that's super important in terms of foundations for what we're gonna do. But then you have the other extreme, which is big pharma, drug development, symptomatic,
Yep.
IP protection, this kind of thing. So and that's it. So right now we have a completely different landscape. You have huge biotech funds. You have a lot of venture capital coming into space, and we finally have a lot of entrepreneurs coming into space. And the reason being, they're not using, any of those two kind of old models. What they do is they're just leveraging technology in completely new way. So when people ask me, like, what big pharma or healthcare system will do to completely redesign itself, I do think that the change in healthcare will come not from old players doing new thing. The change will come from new players doing new things, and this is a whole cohort from entrepreneurs to big tech trying to influence healthcare. So think about big tech, Apple, Google, Amazon. Their market cap today is anywhere between $1 and $2 trillion, right? So well, for example, Apple has very few opportunities to add another 1 or 2 trillions to their market capitalization. So it's either automotive, it's cars or driverless cars, it's education or healthcare. So in a way, I think it was a pretty good report. I guess it was from Morgan Stanley, almost like 2 years ago, that Apple will do 50% of its revenue by the end of this decade from healthcare, and Apple is already doing that. I know a lot of countries, corporations who work with Apple on the healthcare issues, and I think I'm a big fan of Apple Watch, and they have amazing functionality, like adding electrocardiogram there, a few lives saved already, and what they need to do is to add like glucose level monitor,
right?
And kind of blood pressure monitor, and that's basically it's like 95% of the information that you need about how your body is doing, and it's obviously will open up a lot of opportunities for prevention. And prevention is like, if you look at U.S. healthcare system, preventive care is 10 to 20 times cheaper than working in emergency symptomatic responsive mode. So that's a huge economic gain. Apple, Google, Amazon, all these entrepreneurs knows that, and then this is what they're working on.
Yeah, and you're right. We're moving to an age where your watch or your car, whatever it might be, is gathering data, diagnosing, and the economic benefits of prevention are very clear. However, you are bringing some of the cost forward, and that can be quite difficult for governments at thinking 4 or 5 year cycles. So are you seeing generally that shift within health systems, that more forward-looking investment in prevention?
Well, think about, for example, Vitality UK, right? So even they managed to unlock the economic benefit of turning your lifestyle into the healthy level one. And I know Adrian Gore, the founder of Discovery. I know the team in UK. I spent few days with them, and they have amazing model. So, but the example of Vitality UK, which I want to use, like in the course of 365 days, if you live in these days in a healthy way, it's already, it pays for itself. So you're going to get your Apple Watch for £99, not 399. I mean, these are the pricing from a year and a half ago, pre-lockdown, but I'm pretty sure it's somewhere there. And I know countries which were, Singapore, actually, you're going to get your Apple Watch for free, I think, or at a nominal amount if you've done your, healthy walking and, and all your kind of health lifestyle plan in the course of 1 year. So I don't think we need to, think in a longer term horizon to bring this convincing case of bringing technology in healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question that I'm sure you get asked a lot, which is, children being born now. I've got a couple of kids that were born in the last decade. If they're doing the right things, technology's coming through, how old do you think they could live to be?
Um, you mean, so what is the expected lifespan for
Yeah,
kids?
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm what I think. We obviously we don't know what we don't know, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's a very long-term horizon, and so horizon one is what we can do today. We can safely extend our lifespan, average lifespan, to 100 years, and this is just preventing early death, right?
Yep.
So that's it. So then horizon two, which is 5 to 20 years from now, in terms of the use of that, it obviously will help us to break the sound barrier of 122 years, right? So that's the oldest person that we had on the world, at least at the trustable statistics basis, right? This
Yeah.
beautiful French woman, she died back in 1999. So I'm pretty sure that gene therapy, gene editing, regenerative medicine, all other longevity in the pill, all these elements of horizon 2, this is where we invest in longevity vision fund, will help us to break the 120 years barrier. So I do think that it's fair to expect they will have an opportunity to live 150 to 200 healthy and happy years. But obviously, I work a lot with pretty conservative people, so I'm always saying, well, let's just make sure people are healthy and happy at age of 100, and then we'll discuss the rest.
Yeah.
But you touched on a very important point, which is kids. So I'm writing my second book, and it's I don't know if you see that.
Yeah,
This is the infographics. Yeah, it's 10 longevity tips and habits for kids, and partnering with a lot of my good friends who have kids. I have 4 kids, so I do know that it's just we have a great opportunity to instill and brainwash them with kind of healthy living lifestyle choices while they're young and receptive, and they imply that. So that's when I actually, in Horizon 1, I started with my first book, 10 Simple Principles of a Healthy Diet. And I'm looking forward to do like the second book about kids. And I think
great.
This is the most exciting. I'm not sure if I will be, I'm 49, if I will be able to enjoy fully the outcome of my work and our work. But in a way, it's irrelevant for me, right? I'm not doing this for Sergey Young or for my close friends. I'm doing this for the planet. So they're gonna live exciting life. But I do think there's the ethical component of life extension. I'm not sure to what extent we need to touch on that today, but what I think is important to realize that we need to fix this world's problems before people will embrace longer living. So if you ask people in US and UK, if they will, even if they would have an opportunity to add 10, 20 healthy and happy years to their life, you'll get only 35% sign up rate. And actually in both countries, they're pretty consistent. Well, if you ask about immortality, you have only 15% of people who are up for that. And so that means that we need to fix this, world problems like inequality, like solving dictators' dilemma, like what will happen with people of North Korea if their leader will live forever, or this cross-generational responsibility and long-term responsibility that we have for Mother Nature, just throwing plastic in the ocean, using plastic, right? We can't really live on paradigm. Oh, okay, this is my grandkids will sort it out. No, it's going to be us. To sort this out.
And you're right. If everybody is living on average 20 years longer, then the demands for food, living space, everything really starts to increase. So advances there have to go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's a common concern, and I'm less concerned about this one with invention of food tech and renewable energy. I think we're going to be fine in terms of supporting the solar population. In terms of the stress on the planet, I'm more concerned about this, like us living in a balance there. But then the unfortunate reality that in many developed countries in the world, probably with the exception of Africa and some of the places in Middle East and Asia, reproduction rates are well below 2 per family today.
Right.
So China, it was a pretty good study published in Lancet like a year ago. China will decrease its population from 1.4 to 800 million people by the end of this century, right? And I mean, don't ask me about Poland, UK, and US. The figures are terrible, well below 2 per family. So the question is, whether it's a risk or it's an opportunity for us actually to sustain the population at this level. And the peak, I mean, if you look at the model that they built through this study, the peak of population on Earth should be somewhere around 10 or 11 billion. I just can't really recall the figure, and it should be by year 2050. So that's just another supporting kind of argument and layer behind that.
Yeah. And as people live longer, I guess there's another challenge around once you get above maybe 100, every year probably gets exponentially harder, because we know as you get older, you're more prone to cancer, dementia, all these kind of things. So there's a bit of a paradox there. How do we tackle that?
Oh, it's a not, I call it not a 1 billion, but 1 trillion question. I really don't know. And so what do I think of that? Well, partly your question has used the same paradigm that we use for Horizon 1, right? Because we're preventing early death. So our mentality is like, okay, so we're going to continue to use exactly the same paradigm, just helping people not to die early. And it's been working pretty well. For the last 150 years, the average lifespan on Earth increased by 2 times. And no one asked it whether we want to do it or not, right? It just happened that way because of the sanitation, public infrastructure, antibiotics, and all these beautiful inventions. So it's went up in some of the countries from 40 to 80 years. So that's just the thing that's happening. But I do believe the paradigm of life extension after age of 100 is going to be completely different. So as Ray Kurzweil says, it is about, oh no, it's not. It's David Goebel and Aubrey de Grey, founders of Methuselah Foundation. They're the first guy who invented longevity and escape velocity. For every year you spend on the planet, it's going to be another year of innovation and life extension opportunity combined for that. But so when you think about the radical life extension, it's not going to be like, I mean, in the age of 18, you're going to choose, your future age and when you're going to be there. It's going to be a series of regular choices that you would need to make, whether you want to extend your life or not. And that's actually the other ethical issue, because in today's world, it's called suicide. So if you will say, no, I don't want to extend my life, this is suicidal decision by, current ethics and a law norm, which is an insurance as well. So then we would need to solve that. But I do think that the future of humanity will require the change of a lot of paradigms, including the current paradigms of human body and mind. So it is, if you go really kind of far beyond, we're going to be replacing our organs. We're going to be integrating our mind with artificial intelligence, with computers. We're going to be having a lot of nanorobots and nanoparticles inside our blood responsible for our health. It's going to be Internet of Body. I call it Horizon 3, but don't be scared. It's like 50 years from now. So if you speak to Elon Musk, I think he will compress this 50 years in something very different, or human avatars. So we were looking 2 years ago. We had a investment thesis that we need to invest in robotic human avatars, and I've been blessed to know Professor Tachi, the man who invented human avatars back in 1980. He is professor in Tokyo University. At this time, he called it teleexistent. And I interviewed for my bigger book called Science and Technology of Growing Young. So this will come in August. We were looking at robotic avatars and then comparing this with the digital human avatars companies. And when we realized the cost and complexity of trying to extend the resource of our body and mind is incomparably high. If you're okay with the idea of our identity or copy of our identity living in a digital world. Well, here we are. I mean, I'm actually not arguing that all of us will need to live in a digital world. I mean, I don't like Matrix, right? But as always in life, there's certain applications which are super important on each, and it's like, would I like to to have an opportunity to speak to my um, grandfather every month? I mean, he was just essential for me growing up, and transferring his wisdom of all decades of
Mm,
his life to me. I'm partly my success, if you can call it success, is due to him. I would still love to have his advice once a month, right? So when I think about recreating us in a digital world, it's less about creating metrics. It's just what are the best use of this technology, which would still us, make us biological humans, better, healthier, and happier.
yeah, it's a fascinating field, and I'm a sci-fi fan as much as a scientist. So I know that there's still a lot about the brain we don't understand and how it
Mm,
works. I guess the ultimate extension of what you're describing is, and you see this in some of the sci-fi films, could you get to a point where you take somebody's brain or their consciousness and put it into a new body,
yeah.
cyborg, whatever it might be? I mean, I don't know whether you feel we're ever going to get to that point.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm trying not to kind of bother myself with all the problems of the world.
Yes.
It's really far away, and there's so many things that we can do by doing this.
Yeah.
Well, complicated, but in terms of the science and technology, but simple in terms of rollout things like helping people with rare diseases, for
Yeah.
example, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they call rare disease, but 400 million people all around the world, roughly 5% of the world population, are suffering from this orphan or rare disease. So there's a number of
Right.
technologies with gene therapy, gene editing, uh, and AI, when and wearables, when we can create the personalized version of healthcare. So then we can even treat the disease of one
Yeah.
rather than a mass
Yeah.
disease, like, which is obviously need to be treated, like cancer, diabetes, heart
Yeah.
disease, dementia, etc.
Yeah, completely agree. And actually, my view is that most sort of what's called common diseases are actually collections of rare diseases once you break them down to that genetic subtype. I
Exactly.
think
Yeah,
that whole
we
field,
all very unique
yeah,
in this
it's
regard.
fascinating. So a couple more things I wanted to ask you just looking forwards, and we can't really have an interview at this point without talking about COVID. And I know we touched on it earlier on.
Sure.
So short term, obviously, beyond sadly the number of people that have died from COVID, you think about the mental health impact. It's quite a negative thing for people's health and therefore longevity in general.
Yeah.
But do you see some real positive change emerging from COVID? Do you think it's shifted the way we engage with healthcare and how healthcare
Mm.
systems operate
Yeah.
for the longer term?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Nassim Taleb, and I think one of his book called Anti-Fragility, something like that, which talks about that the series of mini shocks um, is essential in terms of preparing us for the larger shocks, right?
Mhm.
So in a way, it was a huge wake-up call for all of us,
Right.
us on the personal level, for corporation, for the business, for governments, for healthcare system, etc. And in a way, I think we forgot that the nature of the world can bring us such an unpleasant and massive surprises like COVID. So it was a huge wake up call for all of us. Um, One, two is obviously attention to healthcare workers is changed completely. Right, we now coming back to this gratefulness moment, and we're very happy they exist, and we want to
Absolutely.
change this system, right? They need, this system needs to respond much better to that. And partly this is happening. We discussed today, we discussed already the regulatory context, right? Regulators all around the world much faster in terms of approving tests, vaccines, and treatments against COVID. So that's been a pilot example of how they should work in the future, in terms of closing the feedback loop much faster, and give us an opportunity for iteration. This one, then it will development of just like sequencing of genome of this virus took what, 10-14 days all around the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, like 25-30 years ago, it would be just impossible like at all for for $1 billion for like 10 years. It would not be possible. So I mean, that's great. This ramp up of testing capabilities as well, but also use of different like robotics and AI in different healthcare settings. Canadian AI prediction company called Blue Dot sent out a warning to their clients about potential COVID pandemic in the last day of 2019.
Really?
Yeah. So you just Google that. It's just an amazing story. And then I think it was World Health Organization done it on 9th of January. And so, but think about this. So they analyze pattern in the social media, travel traffic, and they realize, whoa, there's something happening in Wuhan.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
looks like another pandemic. Just looking at what people Googled or they use Baidu in China, what has happened there. So I think we rediscovered and understood the power of technology, artificial intelligence, and our ability to respond to pandemic like this.
Yeah.
And so that was important in this regard. But obviously, it's increased the level of interest from all perspective: academic, investment perspective, financial, regulatory perspective, and even social perspective to our health. So so it's been a huge but very useful and needed wake-up call.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the world ends up once we are hopefully through the COVID pandemic. So if you play this forwards, I guess within our lifetimes, look at the next 20 years or so, is there one or two particular health advances that you can see coming that really excite you and you think will change the way that we manage our health dramatically?
Yeah, I can think of few of them. My okay, I'm most optimistic about wearables. So that's why I wear like Apple Watch. I mean, you can wear Fitbit, Garmin, whatever the preference you have. And Oura Ring, this is a beautiful invention, which I mostly use to measure my kind of sleep cycle. So I do think that what we thought is activity tracker is becoming personalized healthcare device. And I think it's very important, specifically in the context that big tech is looking for the next big opportunity. And next big opportunity, healthcare is just, trillions of dollars all around the world spend on that. So well, it's not likely, I can guarantee you, we're going to be the net beneficiary of this tendency. So looking at your wearable more like a healthcare device, personalized healthcare device, rather than as funny thing which will help to to organize your interface with your Android or Apple device. We will obviously benefit from that, and the level of predictive capabilities from it gonna be just enormous, and it's already happening. So in 5 years' time, it's gonna be essential part of your health monitoring and health management routine. So that's very important. Second is just recognition of value of early diagnostic, right? We have, enormous analytics capabilities. Like, I mean, you go to MRI today. I'm doing my MRI in annual checkup in Human Longevity Center in California, in San Diego every year. And look at these beautiful machines. I think it's Siemens MRI. They have inventions and outcomes of 10 Nobel Prizes. They change software completely every 6 months, and it's pre-analyzed by AI. Last 2 years, my full body scan and MRI has been pre-analyzed by artificial intelligence, and then I had 30 minutes consultation with my radiologist. Right, so it's not AI will replace doctors, is someone said. I think it was Vinod Khosla, the famous investor, saying it's not AI will replace radiologists, but radiologists without AI will be replaced by radiologists who use AI. So that's the case. And you kind of know that the level of granularity of this is so high, and the level of experience and preciseness of artificial intelligence is so high. So then, you can basically return to your proper FaceTime conversation with doctor, rather than him or her looking at trying to make use of this scan. So the understanding this power of this early diagnostic and the value of this in terms of your life extension, decrease of your own healthcare cost, increase of your level of health and happiness and the quality of your life. It's super important. And again, this is already happening. My third prediction: we're gonna have longevity in the pill, like approved drug, not as a supplement. Supplements you can buy, like NMN now, or this version, whatever producer it, and then
Yeah.
it's probably one of the first interesting and hopefully working longevity supplements. But so we're gonna have longevity in the pill in the next 5 to 10 years. So we already have two candidates. One is metformin. It's old style generic 60
Yeah.
years old diabetics drug. So that's probably you can add 2 to 4 years of your life after the age of 60. You obviously need to consult with your doctor, and we obviously need to wait for the trial to happen. I'm currently working with American Federation of Aging Research and Nir Barzilai, the man behind this metformin trial. It's just in 5 years' time, it's going to be tested on 5 years on a sample of 5,000 people, and we're going to know like what we're going to turn this positive side effect of longevity of metformin into like approved drug format, which will help us to not to cure but fight age-related disease, or rapamycin, which has a very interesting story. And obviously with the use of AI, it's going to be more targets to tackle aging rather than to go into symptomatic way and to tackle one disease. It's funny story, I think, and well, it's not funny story, it's sad statistic. If we take out cancer in whole United States, we're going to increase the lifespan only by 2.7 years.
Wow.
Because the only and cancer is an awful disease, but what is happening, we just if we overcome one barrier, we're facing the other one. So we right now, think about this, so we right in the middle of winning the war against cancer. But then the next war and the next war is neurodegenerative disease, right? We don't there's so many things that we don't know about Alzheimer and other neurodegenerative diseases, and we're just starting to understand that. So this will happen, but longevity in the pill going to be reality. And then obviously organ regeneration. There's so many things happening in this space. Just for the sake of time, I couldn't really spend another 30 minutes telling exciting stories about this whole thing. But obviously, in terms of integration of humans and machine, and humans and artificial intelligence, human and computers, we're going to go a long way. So Elon Musk done it with 4 peaks. So obviously, we now integrate it with our smartphones, right? But we are using very inefficient interfaces like our eyes, our ears. So we obviously need to make use of it in certain ways. So this we'll obviously enjoy the benefit of it in the next 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah. So last question then, which I've got to ask while I've got you here, and we'll put links to your book and the forthcoming one.
Thank you.
With the
Appreciate
video.
Yeah.
You come back to right now and the things that we should be doing every day to increase our lifespan. We all know we should be sleeping well, we should be eating well, exercising. What are some of the maybe less obvious things that you'd recommend people are doing to increase their longevity?
Okay. I have a free infographic on my website. I would love to make all my books for free, but publishing industry doesn't work on the concept of free books. So again, it's called 10 longevity choices or something. It's quite a lot of interesting stuff which can be done. When I have my 30 seconds on longevity, I tell people, just go and do the most comprehensive version of the annual medical checkup they can do. And I've saved like 10 plus lives just simply by giving people this particular advice. And in usual, they call me up. We have stage 1 cancer, and God bless, it's stage 1. I am totally cured. I'm alive. Thank you. You saved my life. So that's what is happening. This one. The other thing is, I just want to quote Jake Cradle from one of the centers in London, which works on human performance optimization. They work with athletes and people who are post-cancer survivors to help them to recover. And when we had a lunch with him, and his first phrase was, I was asking him exactly the same question. He was looking at me and it's like, Sergey, every night we have an opportunity to visit the best clinic in the world. We go to bed and we sleep. So that's important. And it's a beautiful book by, I think, written by Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. I've done this book probably a year and a half. And since that, I'm not taking any credit from my sleep time. My rule is like 8 hours in the bed, 7 hours of sleep. And, it's been amazing for me. And then also in terms of the physical exercises, we humans are pretty binary. It's either like 0 or I'm running London Marathon next year, right? So there's something in between. Like, use your wearable to count your 10,000 steps a day. My good friend in London, amazing guy. When he's using subway, he's just going 1 or 2 stations ahead, so he can kind of walk this this distance. So that's pretty important as well. And finally, we are neglecting. I was just reading over the weekend this book by Deepak Chopra, and he say when people think about their life extension and their health, the usual paradigm is they think about their physical body, but it's just enormous connection between the emotional side of us, like psychological side of us, and the way our body operates. From placebo effect to value of meditation, sleep, act of kindness, etc. So, think about this one. I think we have just a disruption in meditation space. Right now, it can be app-based. I'm using Muse Band, which gives me feedback whether I'm meditating well or not with the sounds of nature. It's like this, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. When you meditate, there's not a lot of ways to give you like feedback, saying, "Oh, Sergey, you're doing a great job. Do this more." And they just using like birds singing, showers, wind to give. So I'm doing a bad job. It's like thunderstorm. If I'm doing a great job, it's like birds singing, right? Or this beautiful wind and sounds of the sea. So there's so many things that we can do on meditation front. Decrease our cortisol level, become a healthier version of ourselves, and we just becoming better people if you release your stress, if you manage your stress, and there's more and more thoughts you have, and there's more you give to the loved ones, and actually more you give to the planet. People with sense of purpose, with a mission, with who doing a lot of sharing rather than just taking for the planet, tends to live better, and they radiate.
That's very good advice, and particularly right now. So, Sergey, look, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed speaking to you, and obviously wish you every success, because your success is all of our successes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I definitely want to keep in touch. But thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me.
And thanks to the audience. Please stay healthy and happy. Take back control of your health, please.